Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to Alien Addict on this very early, spooky evening. I didn't realize my camera was all this way. My wife decided that she was gonna Halloween up early. The kids kind of like talked her into it. So we've got like rats. We ain't got rats. We've got spiders and all sorts of creatures. An actual skeleton, this is the most inaccurate, whatever thing I've ever seen this is a skeleton of an octopus. We all know that octopuses aren't real. It's crazy. Anyway, without further ado, we're gonna get on with the Phoenix Lights. Now we've got two British boys in the house, and we've got two Americans in the house. Us Brits, we look at the Phoenix Lights as just a big triangle in the sky, a formation of lights in a triangle. It's not a big deal. You Americans, you see UFOs all the time. We never see them. Anyway, without further ado, my beautiful co-host there. How you doing, Lee?
I'm good, mate. You?
Yeah, you see any triangles in the sky?
No, got fucking plenty of triangles on my arm.
Oh, you have? You need to get one of them Phoenix Lights.
Yeah, maybe.
What's it look like? It looks like one of those things that you used at school. Is it a protractor?
Protractor, yeah.
Protractor, yeah. Protractor in the sky. That's the word I was looking for.
All very Freemasonic, isn't it? The old triangular crafts.
And we also do have GUFON in the house. He was with us like a few minutes ago, but he was driving home. I hope he's not rushing home. He was driving home going, I'm coming, boys. But we do have...
He was doing something really weird in the car when he was on the phone.
He was. But we have Mike Rogers.
Hey.
Actually doing a show. There's nothing to do with Travis Walton.
Yeah.
It's magic. Yeah. And it's... do you know what, Mike? After the show, we spoke briefly, and before the show. But I wanted to get you back on to talk about the Phoenix Lights because I think we dabbled for about 10 minutes, and I could see you've got quite a bit of passion there about the subject. I don't want to get totally into it right now because I want to wait for Rich as well. But yeah, the Phoenix Nights seems to be Phoenix Lights. Seems to be something that you're really interested in when it comes to ufology.
Well, yeah. But the thing of it is that the Phoenix Lights is not something that I believe is extraterrestrial. So it's kind of a other side of the page for me. Usually I'm trying to convince people that what happened to us in 1975 really did happen. And of course, there's been a barrage of skeptics over the years. But when it comes to the Phoenix Lights, I'm unbiased enough to take the other side of that. And the reason for that is because I personally have found evidence that the Phoenix Lights are most likely not having anything to do with extraterrestrials.
Have you listened to all the shows on the Phoenix Lights? Because I've been listening over the last few days to all Art Bell's stuff that was round about the same time, literally some weeks after, then some months after. I listened to all those shows on the way to work just to kind of I wanted to get a picture of what people thought at the time all this was going on. Were you interested actually when it happened, or did you get interested in it?
Well, yeah, I was interested because I witnessed it that night, I was in Prescott, and I was trying to get video of the Hale-Bopp comet. And that was unsuccessful because the comet was so dim. It was large, but it was very dim, and so I was unable to do that. But in the process, I noticed the lights coming up off the horizon. And it turned out to be later what they called the Phoenix Lights. At the time, I didn't know what the hell it was.
Did you film that then? Did you film the Phoenix Lights?
Yeah. Later on, I had actually chased the thing down. I left that area, went off that hill and down to the freeway, trying to catch up with the Phoenix Lights as it went south. And I was never able to quite do that, but I did get to where I could see it pretty close once I got into the Phoenix area. And I took video there. But again, video, especially analog video, which is what I had, it was a very good camera, but it was analog. And all I got was just points of light, more or less, and that was it. That's about all you could see anyway. That's all I got on video.
Richie G, welcome to the show.
What's up, fellas?
My friend. You've just entered at the point where Mike is chasing the Phoenix Lights.
Okay, in Snowflake?
No. I was telling them, I was up in Prescott. I'd gone there to visit a friend. He wasn't home. I went up on a hill there, just out of Prescott there a ways, and trying to film the Hale-Bopp comet. And it was very dim, and that was unsuccessful. I started putting my equipment away, and I noticed the lights coming up, which I was telling these guys just now that later turned out to be what they called the Phoenix Lights. I was in Prescott, so I wasn't thinking of it in those terms. Cool. It went past, and I wanted to get a better look at it, so I got in my truck and headed out down the freeway and got into North Phoenix, a place called Anthem, and I pulled up on a kind of a hill there, and it was going over South Mountain by that time, so I never did catch up to it, but I got close enough to see it, clear South Mountain to the south there, and then it kind of got lost in the haze, like Phoenix has that haze like Los Angeles, The air isn't very clear.
Yeah.
What did it look like? Sorry, Rich.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, how big did it look to you then, Mike? From your
Well, actually, when I was up in Prescott, I did a thing called snap triangulation, which is something I did for various reasons before that. It's where you it's not real accurate unless you're very accurate with your physical measurements, but you take about 20 steps to the left and snap a point using a planometer, which is a thing that gives you the precise angle from straight up and down. And then you go to the right from where you are, a point you are, like 20 steps, and snap another line. And then you do a calculation to figure out how far away it is. And then you can do another calculation based on that as to from point to point across the span of it. And what it turned out to be is a little less than 1/3 of a mile wide.
Wowzers. I can't imagine seeing something like that in the sky.
And when I first measured the speed of it, which you can do there too, the same thing, snap triangulation, it was doing like 65 miles an hour, but I was at an angle, so it was a little off. But later I got another snap on it that said it was close to 90 miles an hour. And trying to round all that out evenly, I think it was moving somewhere around 85 to 95 miles per hour at that point, which is pretty much directly over Prescott. Later on, I didn't get any more measurements. As I went down the valley, went down the freeway towards the valley, and I couldn't do anything on the freeway. But once I stopped there in Anthem and got up on a hill there, I was able to at least visualize things at that point, from a stable point of view, and could put all that into perspective.
But Anthem to the South Mountain is probably what, 30 miles, right? Because Anthem's all the way on the west side of Phoenix.
Oh, yeah. I'd say about 25 miles.
Yeah, because Anthem's like at 110th Avenue, and then the sighting went right over the 51 when it got to Phoenix, and then went right over the airport. So, and I don't know if you know this, Mike, but on the sides, the walls of the 51, they used to have a message for the aliens, and it said, "Welcome, star people, this way." And they've removed it all after the sighting happened.
Well, I don't know if they should have put up in the first place, because
it was Indian art.
The evidence that I've found, weather evidence, wind evidence, and all that, and I've gone into it pretty extensively, and I have all that up. I gave it to Oli there. It shows very clearly that it more than likely had nothing to do with extraterrestrials, because it was going along with the wind exactly, and the wind did not go in a straight line. It was a kind of over the state of Arizona, it made a reverse S shape.
Sorry, Mike, if you tell me which one you want to bring up, I've labeled them. I've put them in the order that you sent them.
Well, the one that's green is the state of Arizona, basically. And it shows no, not that one. That's the, not that one either, the other one. There you go.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
Got a green
That's
one.
Arizona. The three arrows there represent the wind. The wind is overlaid on top of this map, which was compiled by Peter Davenport of the National UFO Reporting Service. And this is on the basis of I don't know how many witnesses, but they thought there were who knows how many different vehicles, but they were all triangles and basically the same description. But they decided they were all different vehicles entirely, which of course they weren't. There was only
60.
one vehicle. 60.
They said no.
How about 160? Why don't we just throw any wild, crazy idea about how many are there? The reason why people were doing that is because they want to make it sound like an invasion.
Yes. They said when on the third year of the anniversary of the Phoenix Lights documentary, they usually hold those in Scottsdale. I actually sat next to Travis and fell asleep one night over there, and he gave me a dirty look. But anyway, they do like a question and answer after the movie ends, and they were talking about investigating over 62 different UFOs that they think people saw that night. Yeah, it was, but they never did anything with that. Every year I kept asking, do you have any more evidence? Oh, no, we're working on it.
Because it's all verbal is why. It's just claims. It's just claims.
That's a lie.
This evidence that I have is actual factual evidence.
Yeah. Official
evidence. It's not of my creation, It's what I've gotten from wherever, the National Weather Service and OSHA. And all together, put together, it shows that the object was more than likely just one object. And it went from north to south in that reverse S-shaped form. And it pretty much matched the speed that from point A to point B,
The wind was going.
Yeah, and the elevation.
And thank you, Darkest Gooner. I appreciate the 2 pounds, my friend.
Yeah. Peter Davenport says that jets, from whatever base went up.
Luke Air Force Base.
Yeah, investigated, and they determined that it was over Phoenix. It was 9,000 feet above the surface, which is about 1,700 feet above, sea level. And that's high enough that you get into this map right here shows the odd weather pattern, the wind pattern of that particular night, that particular time. And it shows, if you look at the state of Arizona there, it shows the wind moving from the northwest down, and then finally over Phoenix, almost directly south, and then southeast again, leaving Arizona. But that wind pattern matched exactly, and I overlaid it right there. I show you right there on the map there, and it shows that the pattern of the object was precise with the wind.
Some people, and I've talked to 100 people that were witnesses, and they said that, and it says it in the documentary, Tim Lee, I think his name is, and he said the craft came over, just barely made it over these mountains that were really low, like 500 feet. And they said it got low, but when it took off the wings of it or whatever, they went inward, and then it jumped to the next location, and you couldn't hear a thing. And it went maybe 2-3 miles in an instant.
Well, that's people seeing things and trying to make something more fantastic than it really was.
Oh, no.
all
A lot of
that's
people said
verbal.
it.
All
I
that's
know.
verbal. Here's the deal about this mass perception thing. 200-300 years ago, the basic population, the consensus of the people was that the moon was made of Swiss cheese and just beyond the clouds. Is the moon just beyond the clouds and made of Swiss cheese? Of course it isn't. But that's what everybody thought 200 or 300 years ago. Just because they thought that, and even though they thought that by the tens of thousands or who knows how many people, didn't make it true.
Mike,
You know-
so let me get this straight. You're saying that you think this is a hoax, but you do think this was a giant object.
Well, I wouldn't call it a hoax necessarily. You could call it a hoax. Who's making noise there? Is that Tim? No, that's not Tim.
I didn't think it was me.
Okay.
I'm an amateur. Sorry, I didn't think you could hear that.
Yeah,
Man,
I'm very attuned to that sort of thing. I got a
Sorry.
keen ear for that.
Okay.
So
Anyway.
Mike, what's this one here?
That's the National Climate Data Center, NOAA, and that right there is the surface wind. It's the other map was of the lower atmosphere jet stream winds, because that's actually where the object was floating, was in the lower jet stream, the lower edge of the jet stream. Somewhere between 100 and between 100 and like 75 miles per hour. On the surface, it was moving much slower. The wind was going much slower, but if you average out the actual shows there, it's kind of hard to understand without looking at it quite a bit. But see, at 330 degrees there is the average of the lower or of the surface winds. 330, and over Phoenix, it was moving pretty much at from 330 degrees, and that matches, of course, the other map as far as everything. You know, the wind direction at wherever points are available there from those various airports and weather stations that are on that chart there.
So, this here, am I right by saying, is this what you? Is this your artist impression of what you?
Yeah.
witnessed?
Well, that right there was taken from the video that I took. All I got on the video was points of light. All the rest of it is what I had to put in it.
So this is CGI that you've done.
Yeah, that's a CGI, right? But the lights at that point are where they were, and they're not exact. If you could actually take a measurement on there, they were not perfect all the time. Everybody thinks it was on like a solid wing of some kind.
Nope.
Well, it was to some extent, but the lights varied in their angle, and they varied in the distance they were apart from each other.
Yeah, they weren't
to a certain degree. Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't equidistant. They weren't on the same thing. They
Right.
they were off, and I hate when people say that. They lined up perfectly. No, they didn't.
Right. No, they did not. And I took measurements to that effect.
So did I.
What gets me is there's supposed to be 10, 20, 60 objects, various objects. Why in the world, if there were so many of them, were only one visible at any one time?
That's right.
Why is that? Because there was only one. That's why.
Right. It's the only thing that makes sense, right?
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, somebody would have seen 2 or 3 at one time. Nobody did.
But don't you think it's perspective? You know, when the craft was at a different angle, it looked like a different, maybe a disc or whatever, So I could see maybe that coming into play.
Oh yeah, exactly. But not a separate object.
No. So
The object changed shape, and then the lights changed the various positions and like that. And the thing of it is that there were only 7 lights at any one time. Put it this way: at the most, there was 7 lights, and for various reasons, at various points, various perspectives, there was only 5 lights or 6 lights, and I think one person reported only seeing 4 lights. So that picture right there that I have is of the 7 lights. Yeah. There were never more than 7. Now the second event that they call it, which happened later after this object went further on south and disappeared. Then you have the second event, which was actually flares being dropped from aircraft. That had been pretty well established. A lot of people don't want to believe that. They want to believe it was another big craft, and that one had something like 9 or 10 lights. But
and is that the video that everyone's seen? Was that what we think of the?
The second event is the 9 lights.
Yeah.
And there was somewhere between 6 and 9, I think.
9,
those, depending on where they disappeared at and what time you're talking about. But no more than 9, I think, right?
Right, and that was at 10 o'clock.
However, that was because 2 of them were invisible because they were behind the mountains, which nobody wanted to believe either. But the Air Force showed that, like the Air Force, the Barry Goldwater gunnery range was way, way further south, to the southwest than people believed. They thought it was in front of South Mountain. And actually those flares were all dropped 70 miles to the south.
So I want to show you boys something that I had a conversation with Lee the other day. Lee sent me something very interesting. It was actually not linked to this conversation at all, but I think what Lee has here is very interesting. And thank you, Moonlit. Moonlich. It's lit.
No, it's licked. Licked. There it is.
I'm sure Stu Little told me how to say it.
We did a whole show on his name last week, so
we did.
Spell that again. The name?
Moonlicht. Licked.
Licht. I think it's Scottish.
Ah, yeah. If you pronounce it Scottish, then you can understand it.
Right.
You could say booby on YouTube. Booby's fine.
Isn't booby children?
Booby? No, booby in the UK is bosom, you know?
No, but if you boobies, like your kids are boobies.
Oh, I've heard that before.
Yeah, it's a UK term.
I've been to England a number of times. I've spent quite a bit of time there, hearing the normal slang.
As far as Scotland goes, I think you're thinking of bobies.
No, it was in a. Oh, Ollie, yeah, maybe he was thinking that, but not me.
No,
I've heard booby more than once relating to children.
Oh,
but it might be relating to something that's childlike, not necessarily children.
Yeah, my two used to constantly yell booby. Nightmare. Breastfeeding at 8 years old. Jesus Christ, just stop it, woman. Anyway.
Anyway, off that. We're talking about the Phoenix Lights here.
that's a joke, by the way, people. I'm good. So, Lee, you sent me a link the other day. I think it was actually before the interview.
Weeks ago, wasn't it? A long
weeks
time
and
ago.
weeks and weeks ago. And when Mike started talking about the Phoenix Lights possibly being an object in the sky that was just moving along with the wind, it got me thinking about what you sent. And I think your exact words were, could this be what we have been seeing in the sky? You didn't mention Phoenix Lights, but you said to me, could this be what we've been seeing in the sky? So without further ado, I'm going to bring it to the screen. And here we are. So this here, people, can you see, I've brought the wrong chicken link up.
Well, while you're pulling that up, I want to.
There we go.
Okay, go ahead. All right.
There we go. This is the one. So this, people.
Nothing's changed.
Yeah, nothing changed here. Same one.
Yeah, StreamYard has been weird lately, so I don't know if you're having the issue I was having.
That is weird. Let me just.
Well, there was a.
Is it come on now? Is it changed now?
No.
Nope.
What?
You're changing something. Are you in tab or are you on the entire screen? Or are you on, what are you on when you hit share? Because it gives you 3 options. It gives you entire screen.
Share. There we go. Go on, what were you going to say, Rich, while I bring this up?
All right, while you bring that up, I'll look it up while we're talking, just see if I could find it. But there was a gentleman who said he knew exactly what the Phoenix Lights were. It was an invention he was working on in the 80s that used electrostatic electricity from the Earth, and it was able to propel these crafts, these huge 300-foot blimps, just like you were talking about, the speed of the wind. But there was he says he got let go. They canceled the project for whatever reason, and then somebody took up on it in the early 90s after he left, and they were able to make this work, hover in the sky, go across, 70 miles an hour, and you couldn't hear it. So I'm wondering if this was one of those, maybe that's what he said it was. And the way it worked, it just rode along the electrostatic energy of the Earth, whatever's coming off the Earth. And the
only question I have there is that doesn't look big enough. It's huge, but it doesn't look as big.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so you see this original, you see the actual photograph of this here?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this launches, and then this ends up becoming this.
It elongates and gets larger. Is that what you're saying?
There is no actual footage of this.
Well, that could be what it was. That could be it. Except that I don't see any light. It could be.
Well,
I mean, the other thing is anything that comes in.
But there's not 60 of them. Where's the 60 of them?
Yeah, but
I know, right?
Any man-made tech that comes into sort of into the civilian area has obviously passed through military stuff before. So if we're looking at this sort of stuff becoming like civilian technology, then you would imagine at some point, even if it's not used, it would have passed through like the military side first.
It very well could have been military. I've thought that all along.
What I was thinking before when you talked about the lights moving as well, I did think unless the lights, whether it was like an actual like designed hoax or an event to look like something else, say, if the lights are something to do with propulsion, it would make sense that they moved around. If you wanted to keep something stationary and or in some sort of continuous motion, they're going to change depending on wind, depending on topography anyway, aren't they? If they're some sort of propulsion. Now
that object right there is can at least it looks as though it can make the lights fluctuate a little bit, not a great deal, but enough to measure. Enough to where you could say they're not absolutely static all the time in exactly the same positions. And it can change the shape of the V to some extent. At least it looks that way. All I know about this is what I'm reading here, which isn't a lot.
Rich, I'm dyslexic and Mike can't see it. Can you read that for us?
I can read it. It says we're creating a whole new way to space. It says if you want to get to space, you climb on top of a giant fuel tank and light it on fire. There's got to be a better way. The idea is simple. Use an airship to float on the top of the airmosphere, they called it here. Then the craft slowly accelerates using electric chemical hybrid rocket engines over days until it reaches orbital velocity. Now, the last thing here, the details are complicated. For one, for an airship to fly at the edge of space, it will need to be big. I mean, really big, over a mile long. A mile, that's what everybody said. It would also need to be very light. A Gossamer hypersonic airship. Such a vehicle is not suited for flight in the lower atmosphere. This and other factors create the need to a 3-stage approach. The first stage is an airship that travels from the ground to 140,000 feet. There, it will dock it with a way station floating at the top of the atmosphere. Cargo and crew then transfer to a large orbital airship for the 9-day journey to orbit. This is an enormous undertaking. It requires developments in hypersonics, plasma rocket engines, active drag reduction, and more. It needs a great deal of experience operating in the upper atmosphere. This is not idle speculation. We are building the test vehicles, conducting the tests, flying development mission now. We have conducted thousands of tests in the pull it down a little bit. In the ATO program, both on the ground and at the edge of space. So at least they're trying. We've built a series of large and small airships, one step at a time. And of course, this thing is crazy. You can't possibly fly an airship to space, can you? We are answering that question. It's been over 40-year project. Oh, it is, since the 80s. We've had our share of successes and failures. While we are figuring it out, I invite you to follow along on the journey. I can't promise success, but it will take a heck of a ride. But it will be a heck of a ride, yeah.
Well, what is the ultimate goal here?
To get into space without using rockets.
Aha. Well, that's cool.
Oh, I'm still
That'd
off.
be great
Yeah.
if they could.
Oh, yeah.
But just get into space is obviously all it can do. Can't go anywhere beyond that, right?
Yeah, it didn't say. It just says if you want to go into space, right? You gotta.
Yeah.
Did it say it takes 9 days?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Why? To gather up speed. But they don't say how fast they're going to go. There's a lot of unknowns.
Well, it's going to have to go 17,000 miles an hour to match the speed of like a space station.
That is true.
Mhm.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I read that when Lee sent me it because I read everything that Lee sent me. Here's the thing: 40 years. 40 years. This thing has been they've been developing this type of thing, and they've had the hit. Yeah, go on there, Rich. They've had the hits and misses. Is that what they said?
No, I was going to say, and it gets up to a mile long, and a lot of people said the Phoenix Lights that they saw was 1 to 2 miles long.
Yeah, you weren't there a while ago when I was telling these guys that I measured. I don't think I did a snap triangulation on it when I was up in Prescott. And what I came up with, which is not an exact figure, but it's close, was a little bit less than 1/3 of a mile wide.
Wow, that's huge, though.
Yeah, it is huge. That's very huge. Of course, the skeptics think it was airplanes, and that's all they'll say. I mean, I sent this stuff to Michael Shermer, this evidence I have, and he doesn't like it at all.
I
Why?
know.
Because it's not what they said to begin with, and that's all.
Right.
They said it's jet airplane. They said it was moving at 400 miles per hour. That's absurd.
It's the dumbest thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually moving. If you actually make the measurements from north to south, it actually disappeared from view entirely at Casa Grande. It didn't even go as far as Tucson. It disappeared. Period. Right about Casa Grande, or maybe a little bit past Casa Grande. And they speculate that it came from like Area 51, but there's no evidence of that. I don't know where it came from, but I think it came from somewhere in Arizona, because there was only 2 people that witnessed it in Nevada, and they said it was moving. It was the size of a 747. And it was moving about that speed. They didn't have any way of measuring the speed. They just said it was a blur.
But check it out, Mike. What if it was extending itself the further it flew?
Yeah, but the way they've got there, they're talking about a long period of time to do that.
No, I know, but what if in this version it was able to? You know what I mean? Like maybe in this article, they're talking about things that would take a long time, but maybe they've mastered it. And, you just press a button and off you go. I don't know. Maybe it was aliens.
Here's the question, though.
It could have been I'm not saying it wasn't aliens, okay? I'm just saying that the evidence does not point to that at all.
But this takes a bit of speculation. If let's just say then it's some sort of man-made craft, like you think, that's floating on the wind, that traveled through. There we are. Lots of people saw it. How does something so massive, moving so slow, disappear without somebody seeing it come down?
True.
Yeah.
Because at some point, I mean, you yourself, you were trying to track it. Somebody that was already in the area that was there, I'm sure someone would have jumped in their car and just began to follow that thing where it was going.
That's what I did.
Do that.
That's what I did.
Go? How does it disappear?
I followed it all the way from Prescott down to North Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing well over 100 miles an hour down the freeway.
Probably got to 35 minutes. Right.
Anyway,
But that
the speed that I calculated, which was somewhere, well, I took a couple of different speed readings. It was moving around 75 miles an hour at one point to begin with, and then later it was a little over 90 miles per hour. And neither one of those speeds is absolutely accurate. It's just close. But it shows you that the thing was not moving at 400 miles per hour, and it was not moving at 30 miles per hour, which a lot of people in Phoenix thought it was moving at.
Yep.
But you know, if you've ever experimented, which I did, I experimented a lot of different ways with perception of speed. And what I found is that you can't really understand speed without a speedometer. If you're out on the highway and you get stopped for speeding, right? The first thing they say is, I didn't know I was going that fast. You know?
That's a lie.
Yeah. Well, the thing of it is, you really don't know. You don't know how fast you're going. You can't. The human mind, for some reason, isn't really capable of that. And even then, it's only capable of estimating to within a range. You know, to know exactly how fast your car is going requires a speedometer, and the speedometer has to be accurate. But that's right there at an exact speed, you know, say 65 miles per hour highway speed. When you get into smaller, lesser speeds, and especially if you get into greater speeds, you have no way of knowing. You just can't measure it at all. Supersonic, you know, 750 miles an hour, the speed of sound, you can't measure that. The human mind is incapable of fathoming that or making a comparison from that to anything else.
Only because it's not the norm for us to see something. Now, if I'm doing 50 in my car, I can guess within 5 miles an hour I'm doing 50 because I drive that a lot. So I think we're not accustomed to seeing things going 700, 500, 400 miles an hour, even 200 miles an hour, you know?
That's right.
So it kind of makes sense what you're saying. How do we, know unless you have something to track it? But
right.
Yeah. Good point.
Mike, your drawing here, I don't know if the audience can see, but it looks like you're showing. Is that just have you just put that in to show what shape it would be, or did you actually see?
No, that's actually taken from one frame of the film, the analog tape that I was using. Those tapes fell apart not too long after that because analog tape doesn't last too long unless it's really well stored. But anyway, I got that off of it, and here's another one right here. It's so
this is CGI put over.
Yeah, it's a CGI over a frame from a videotape. But nothing else is there. Like the sky was black. This shows it. The actual frame of the videotape, everything was black except for these dots of light.
Right. The question I have is, because people said that this thing blanked out the stars. You couldn't see the stars between the
It did
gap.
that sometimes, not all the time.
Okay.
I came up with the concept that it was made of materials that blocked out the light to some extent, but not completely. And when I was a few days later, I was up in Prescott looking at the area again. I found a large piece of plastic out in the woods that was hung up in a tree. It was 10 feet wide. It was kind of a smoky gray in color. It was see-through, and it was torn on both ends. And I only found the one piece, like maybe it was something that fell off of it.
Did you put it in your pocket?
No, not too large. I did bring it home though. But it was a piece of extremely thin plastic. Painters use this real thin stuff sometimes to protect a carpet or something from a paint job.
Like dry cleaning stuff. When you go pick up dry cleaning, that real thin.
Yeah.
You mean like that?
Oh, like when you want to kill somebody, chop them up.
I should have thought of that. Yeah.
Lee, we all know you're not a decorator, really.
Ollie being relatable to the common man again.
Anyway, I don't know if that was part of it or not. It was just a piece that I found out there, and it was very strange. So I thought maybe that could have been could have been part of it. A thing that tore off, floating, up there, just came off,
So how
Whatever.
would you, Mike? I want to ask you. Do you know the story about Kurt Russell seeing How is it that he saw what he saw, not even knowing that he was part of this big event for years? And when he heard it was on a daytime show, he realized they were talking about him. What did he see then? The flares over at the gunnery range going off? He said they were moving. They were in a straight line.
No, he saw the first event as it was over by the airport. Okay.
Yep.
But he didn't see the second event. I don't think. I would think of the first event.
No, but he said that they were in a straight line, which was interesting.
From his point of view, it could have been.
Maybe it could have been. Yeah, I
because
guess so.
If you take a string of lights that, like say 9 lights on a string, it can actually be on a straight line if it's viewed from some angle, or a slightly bent line if it's viewed from another angle, or if it's viewed from the optimum angle. It can have a very sharp point, like much more sharp than say a V would have, sharper than that. In other words, sharper than 45 degrees. It could be just a few degrees more than that. I don't know what the actual optimum angle would be, but 45 degrees is like a perfect, what do you call it, a square edge.
Mm-hmm.
If you gave it more angle than that, say 40 degrees, it'd be sharper, and I think it was probably closer to 40 degrees at its sharpest point. I have no terminology to talk about this, really.
Moonlit, question here. What is the timeline declaration for the scenario here? Well, I know it was March 1997.
Yeah.
March 13th.
March 13th. And what was it
Well,
like 9 o'clock?
They started seeing it. The first event was visible even before it got completely dark.
7:30.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
It depends on what you think. It was twilight. The sun had gone down. It had been down for a while, and it depends on where you were looking at it from, where it was when you first saw it. It did not come from Area 51. I don't think it could have, but I don't think so. The first time it was actually visible in Arizona was not too far away from Prescott.
Actually, I'm looking at a report. It says 6:55 Arizona time, Henderson, Nevada.
Yeah.
And then Paulden, Arizona, which I remember, which was about 8:15. Is that 2000 hours, 2015? But when I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead and finish your thought there.
I don't remember now. But yeah, I was going to say something about 9, but go ahead. I'll get back to it.
Thank you, Millage.
Yeah. There's eyewitnesses, and they all have times. And the time was different from Nevada to Arizona. There's a 1 hour time difference there. And so it depends on what time they're talking about. Arizona time or Nevada time,
Yeah.
But all said and done, the time it took from the time it was definitely witnessed, which was in northwestern Arizona, until it disappeared by Casa Grande, was less than 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And if you match that to the actual speed that the object was floating in, which is the lower jet stream, and it's somewhere around 80 to 90, no more than 100 miles per hour, that matches the time from point A to point B there.
But here's the thing: if we go back to that time, that nearly 7 o'clock when the first sighting was seen.
That was just north of Arizona, yeah.
And it depends on which time they're using, Arizona or Nevada time.
All I'm thinking is that's not going to be nighttime.
Well, it's evening, it's dark.
It's evening. You'd see lights, but if this thing was an actual full-on object, in the UK that time, you know, well, not in winter, but you'd see something, you know, it's not dark.
Correction. It was 7:55 Arizona time.
Yeah,
Okay, in March.
Arizona time.
March 13, 99. It was Henderson, Nevada at 5 minutes to 8 o'clock Arizona time.
Yeah.
And then at 8:15, it was in Paulden, Arizona, seen in Paulden. I don't know how far that is, but it's, you know, maybe 100 miles. Then Prescott at 17 minutes after the hour. So at 15 minutes after 8, it was in Paulden. Then it went to Prescott Valley. 2 minutes it took to get there.
How many miles per hour is that from
I don't know.
to Prescott?
I have to find out. I'll have to look at the map. Yeah, I mean, that would seem really fast.
But 7:40.
Is it worth picking it up on Google Maps?
Well, you see, this thing is viewed at being various elevations, which are all incorrect. You know, people think something's 1,000 feet above the ground. They get a different idea of the speed if they don't really know the actual elevation.
True.
Yeah.
For sure.
And you know, there's no way of knowing how fast something's going unless you actually have a way of measuring it.
But if we can, at least going off those 3 points from where it was seen, if Ollie can find out, or look on Google Maps, see what the different distances between those and the time, we might.
Actually, I've done those maps. I didn't give them all to Ollie here. You know, I have quite a bit of documentation, things that I've come up with, but I didn't present them because they're not. They're based on the evidence, but they're not the evidence themselves. They're just speculations and stuff that I've come up with based on the evidence. But I've done those things.
I'll bring up the maps, but when did you say the first time was 7 what? It's 7.
5 minutes to 8.
Okay. How dark is it at 5 minutes to 8 in March in Arizona?
It's dark.
Yeah, it's pretty dark.
It's dark. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Because that's with them saying that this thing blacked out the sky.
Well, it left a silhouette. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, at that time of night, it blocked out whatever was behind it, whatever stars or whatever.
Yeah, I've heard that people.
And it continued to do that actually all the way through. It just did that all the way.
I have actually heard like what you said there, Mike. That people from different angles you could see certain things, and to me that actually describes the whole giant airship. Because if something's see-through, not quite see-through, it's still going to black out the sky. But at certain angles, you're going to see something through that big giant balloon.
Right.
If that's what it was.
Yeah, we don't know what it was. We don't know what it was, but there's a lot more known about it right now. That's the first time I've ever seen this stuff that you had on the screen here a while ago. That's very interesting.
Moonlicht was asking if was the object seen and then the flares seen from the same location at different times. No,
heavens no. The second event was 45 minutes to an hour later, and that depends on where you were and the accuracy of a person's particular measurement.
About an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So the second incident being flares.
Yes.
What would be the best guess then at why that was done? Do we think that was done to create a story? Because I don't know what
I've done a lot of speculation about that. I really haven't. I can't correlate that to anything with the first event. If it did have anything to do with it, I think possibly it could have to do with the event. The object went dark. Disappeared or went dark, one or the other, there by Costa Grande, and they might have been looking for it because where they actually deployed all those flares was right there, very close to where it disappeared. They may have been tracking it. You know, the Air Force had a lot more to do with this than they admit to. They don't even admit to sending up jets to check it out. But Peter Davenport has men on tape, pilots on tape, talking about it. There definitely were. They were pilots, and they were sent to investigate.
But the Maryland, it was the Maryland bombers, whatever it was, and they said when they don't land with hot flares on their plane, they have to launch them, so they let them go, is what they were saying.
Okay,
That's
well,
why.
Well, you're getting these two events crossed up again.
No,
The pilot-
I'm just telling you what happened. Yeah, about.
No, I'm talking about the guys that were sent to investigate. We're not talking about the second event here.
Oh, okay.
These pilots were checking out the event, the object that went over Phoenix.
From Luke Air Force Base, right?
Yeah, the second event happened 70 miles further to southwest.
Yeah. Okay,
An hour later, yeah.
Yeah.
The Air Force pilots were sent to investigate when it was over Phoenix. It's a whole different group compared to those later on.
Yep. And there's silence.
I
I had my mic on mute.
Oh, I didn't see you. Okay.
I still can't reconcile the idea, though, that if there's something just traveling on the wind, that it just disappears without somebody seeing it come down or somebody seeing it go somewhere.
That's a very good question. If it disappeared, that's easy. The lights just went out. And it could have been deliberate, or they could have been something that was based on something, like flares, but a different type of flare, like say industrial flares, which were hotter and whiter, and they could have been switched off.
But
I'm guessing out in the desert, though, there's not a huge amount of light pollution.
No, but there's enough. But
No.
if you got a big object there that was sent up deliberately, like for whatever reason, and it was lit with these lights, we don't even know what the lights were, but say around Casa Grande they went dark. They could go dark, and the whole entire object could disappear from view because you can't see much of anything up there. I mean, when it's dark, you know.
What time was it? The last when the lights went out.
It disappeared. What time was that?
About 8:25 was the last time we saw them, and then the flares were dropped about 10.
Okay, so if those lights went out, then if you couldn't see it with the actual in between the lights, if the lights went out, the object probably was still there. You just couldn't see it.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There you go. Yeah.
That's what been trying to say. It's hard to say all those words. Yeah. Anyway, the lights go out, it disappears. You know, whatever's there, whatever was carrying the lights along would disappear because it was barely visible even with the lights on. The lights weren't that bright.
So go ahead, Ollie.
No, you go, Rich.
Well, I was just going to talk about what people saw when it flew over them, and I'm wondering if it was some sort of fusion reactor, because they said when they looked up at the lights, it looked like they were in a canister and that the lights were swimming around.
Yeah,
which makes me think it was some sort of, I don't know, ion or whatever.
Looking up from the ground up 9,000 feet, which is about where this thing would. And if the light was in a canister, inside of a recess or whatever, or a deliberate fixture of some type, you're far enough up to where there's distortion in the air, especially if the lights were creating heat. And the heat would create a disturbance in the air around them inside this canister type area. And they could produce that effect of the light moving or stirring or whatever.
Now, you said 9,000 feet. These people were talking about it just going over the roof of their house.
I know, but that was that was an illusion. I mean,
if it was, man, then that object may have been 1 to 2 miles wide. If it's that big, that high up, oh my God, it would have to be huge.
The thing of it is that it can only be one size, because I think there was only one object. I think there was only one size.
I'm not sure about that. Reports I've had, people saw it extend, people saw it come together.
You can't rely on what people say.
You can.
A lot of people say certain things just to try to get attention.
But when you talk to somebody who lives 30 miles away from somebody, they don't know what they said, and you're hearing the same thing. That's telling to me. That's interesting. And I started believing these people actually saw some unknown craft, not man-made.
Well, put logic to it.
Oh,
put logic to
all right.
it.
Well, now we're talking.
Yeah.
Well, why would I do that?
Yeah. put logic
No.
to it.
Okay.
I mean, that's why you know, say things like, why not 160 objects, you know, like that, you know. People only saw one object at one time.
Right.
I don't know of one single report of there being more than one object seen. And even if there were, so what? There was only one object seen at any one time by the majority of people. So from that, I would say there was only one object.
Okay, so we're talking about one object with multiple witnesses.
10,000 at least.
Many thousands of witnesses.
Maybe more, yeah.
Why?
The map.
I mean, if it was a government test, why do it over a population? Wait, 2 million at the time?
I don't know that it was a test. It
And
was
3.5 million, yeah, back then.
If the government had any control as far as what they would get from this test, so to speak, it couldn't be much, because there's too many variables there.
What if the test wasn't on the vehicle? What if the test was on the people?
Right.
Bingo.
Exactly. That's what I've come to. As a matter of fact, there is a place near Prescott. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a place where people learn aerodynamics.
Thanks, Ginger Steve.
And the people there, I just see a lot of possibility there that the people who are there in this academy, or whatever you want to call it, could have been the ones hired to create this thing.
I'm going to bring it back up again. What you showed me the other day, Lee, because I can't help but think that it's just the whole speed of this thing.
The only thing that I would say, as far as that thing I showed you after when Rich read it out, they did go on to explain why that thing couldn't fly in low Earth or like inside of the Earth's orbit. You know, it can only they have to switch to the bigger one. So for the sizes we're talking about, that kind of it's the right shape. Don't get me wrong, but that particular project isn't necessarily the one, is it? I mean, that thing looks like what you would think the Phoenix Lights would be, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. If that's what it was, let's just say for a second that that's what it was. It could have been something that kind of got out of control, something that they didn't mean to have happen the way it happened. Wasn't intended to go over Phoenix. Let's just say it got loose from them and it took off and started floating in the air and ended up where it ended up. And that's all it was as far as the government's concerned. As far as any deliberateness on their part. That's a possibility.
I find it interesting that they had so let's say something went. We're not sure what it was a large craft, flew over loads of people, lots of people saw it. I find it interesting that they were ready to go with flares, like, so that it's not if the flares was there to detract from the thing that people saw, it's not, that hasn't just been thought of, like, what do we do? And someone in the back room said, why don't we just drop a load of flares, Dave? Like, let's go and drop flares. That's been a plan that's been in place, that this thing goes over, then it disappears, then an hour later we do this and we run with this story. It's an organized event.
But Lee, nobody talked about flares till 3 months later when the newscast was doing a news thing outside, and they saw flares in the distance, and they said, hey, that looks like what people saw in the Phoenix Lights. Yeah. So that was in June. Mm-hmm. So if it was planned, nobody was talking about it immediately as if it was planned to be talked about, because they could have just said, some witnesses said they saw flares. Could it be flares? No, the news didn't do that. We waited until accidentally somebody saw it.
Oh yeah, no,
which is interesting, because if it was planned,
I don't think the flares were necessarily planned to be outed as flares immediately. I think the flares were put out so it was a separate incident that muddied the water from the first one.
Yeah, for sure it was. Yeah,
I think they were probably looking for the first event object, because those flares, what purpose did they have otherwise? They weren't there for show. They were looking for something on the ground.
Well,
I find it hard to believe that they'd be looking for it like visually. If you've got an experimental craft, first of all, it's fucking huge. So how have you lost a experimental craft? Second,
Yeah,
of
but
all,
you can't see it in the dark. They have to be able to see it with something
you're gonna
producing
have
light.
GPS on it. But you're going to have GPS on it, then, aren't you?
Why?
Because if it's an experimental craft,
The GPS is not going to show anything.
it would show you where it was if it crashed.
But they would have to have something on it to show the GPS where it was.
Yeah. So, but I'm sure if you were running an experimental craft, you would have a way to find it should something go wrong.
Depends on what you mean by an experimental craft. Are you talking about something that was piloted or just something that was floating?
Either.
And what if it was something that just got away from them? Like I was saying earlier, what if it was something that just got away from them and started floating on the air and took off, you know?
Just one of them's like, holy shit, we've lost the giant balloon.
Yeah, and so here we are down here at Costa Grande and this Barry Goldwater gunnery range. The flares could have just simply been looking for this object that disappeared, which they let go of them earlier.
It seems odd to me to put something into the air without some sort of tracking device on it.
That big.
Well, it might seem odd to you, but it's entirely possible if they didn't think to do that. I mean, if it was a mistake to start with, why would it definitely have to be regulated that way?
I'll be honest with you, Mike. I'm totally with Lee there, because if the government doesn't, I'd like to say they don't do anything without a second, without a plan. But if something like that got loose, that big,
yeah.
I mean, you're talking 1997. They had tracking stuff back then. You know, they would have put something on it. But I get what you're saying with the flares to look for it. That makes sense. It does make sense. But did the flares drop where that thing disappeared?
Have no idea of knowing. See, here's another thing. There were lower atmosphere winds that actually went in reverse of those higher. That's something else I studied. The object, when there at Costa Grande, where it went out, the lights went out, this object was also lowering in elevation, like it was losing elevation. And I don't know exactly what the elevation was, but at around a 5,000 foot elevation, the wind started curving back towards the west. I don't know to what degree because I don't have those maps, but there are indication of that. And if the object went west from Costa Grande, it would have ended up right there at the Barry Goldwater gunnery range.
The flares were not dropped by the exact same spot, Ollie.
Where it disappeared.
Right. It was near, but it wasn't close enough where you would say it was near. But right. Mike, I don't think those flares were dropped to look for it either. I think it was part of what they thought would be their cover story. Nobody caught on to it for a while.
Were they even using a cover story yet?
They didn't use it until the newscast made a comparison with some flares they saw when they were outside. And it didn't look anything like the Phoenix Lights because it had smoke trail and everything. But but that camera, that guy, Mike Christensen, whoever took the video of the flares or whatever, he was 35 miles away. You're not going to see the smoke trails in the middle of the night.
There were actually several people who took video of the second event.
I've never seen any. Oh yeah, there was, and also I think Mike King or somebody like with that name. But but it didn't look the same.
There were at least 3 and possibly 4 different people who took video of the second event, and they all show the same thing. The way they drifted down, they all showed the smoke trails that you're talking about, and the videos were all the same. They were from different perspectives, but they're all the same, of the same thing, the same event. But there were several. So
Do you know what makes me think that this could have been a man-made object more than anything, more than the fact that we've seen that giant balloon thing that's been in development for 40 years, is the reaction, you know, to like the governor that took the
Symington.
That did the whole alien this is the culprit and laughed it off, and then was it about 8 years ago or something like that, it was on a documentary saying that he saw it, and this thing it was definitely not from this world,
but he lied.
He lied then, or did he lie back then?
He lied now. He lied both times. Symington is one of the biggest liars in this whole thing.
Politician.
He says he got home at 8:30 at night, heard there was a sighting. He went to Squaw Peak where the sighting already happened, and he said he was milling around out there, and everybody started. You mean to tell me he came home to eat dinner, didn't take his family and kids with him with a camera to go look for the UFO that he said he saw by himself? Come on, the governor isn't going to go out by himself anyway.
It was for political gain.
It was, but he's trying. The only reason he said he saw it is because he pulled that stupid stunt showing, the alien that was his, one of his workers, and telling everybody, you take this stuff too seriously.
Trying to make fun of Barwood.
Frances Barwood, she had she talked to thousands of people every day.
Yeah,
and she was getting laughed at.
About three or four times I've listened to her this week. Not on, but I've been listening to the backlogs this week.
Oh yeah,
she was on it about 3 times, talking back and forth, and people. She was just said to everybody, ring me if you've got a story. Ring me with this. She wanted to know.
I talked to Barwood personally for about an hour and a half. So I got her angle on all that.
Is she still about? Is she still into all this?
I don't know. I haven't seen her for a long time.
Actually, there was a little documentary that came out a year ago, and she was in it. She's not into it anymore. She's retired and whatnot, but yeah, she was in it for a while though. She started meeting.
She was told to leave it alone, wasn't she, Rich? She was told. Yeah, to leave.
They said. She said we need to allocate funds to find out what happened to this, and they said we don't see anything to allocate funds for this. We're not going to do it.
Well, not after it happened. I mean, she was advocating that the expense of funds from the state government to find out what happened, to investigate it thoroughly. That was after the fact, but that was within a year after it. Nothing since then. I mean, it's too late. I mean, that was 24 years ago?
Yeah. Someone in the chat said, it's BS, says Fife said he saw it on the news. There's no news at 8:30, and the news never reported anything till the day after on the 14th. Wrong. And I'll tell you exactly how it went down. There was at 9:30, they said there's been reports coming in of strange lights around the valley this evening, coming up at 10. So it got everybody excited for it around 9:30. There was news. And then the flares, after the flares dropped, they were talking about it. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they after the news went live, then those flares were dropped. And nobody saw them.
It was even a big thing in the UK, because I remember the next day, like when I woke up in the morning, it was on national news in the UK. That this thing had happened,
And that doesn't happen, does it, Lee?
Doesn't happen, no.
It went global.
Yeah.
I really think it was something man-made, but maybe it's just something that got away. But I don't see why that would ever happen when they have all the land they need to do their testing. So I think this may have been a people test to see how Lee said it earlier. I think it's that.
Well, it's that regardless.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a test of
either
people,
way.
The human mindset, people in Phoenix, Arizona.
But nothing happened. But then nothing happens until 2006 over O'Hare Airport. That was the next big thing. So, for them to do a test on us, they need to keep doing them. If they really, you know what I mean? If they want an accurate test of different people in different parts of the world, maybe that's what this whole thing is. Maybe they're prepping us. Maybe they're prepping us. They're prepping us.
Yeah. And it could be several things at one time.
Yeah, right.
It could have been a plan, and then it was a plan gone wrong.
For sure.
And then they all pulled it all together, and it became a plan again.
Right. Yes.
Well, did you hear about the thing in the UK? You must have heard about this, Rich. When I think it was about 3 years ago, when was it Heathrow was shut down because somebody was supposedly flying a drone over the. Yep. Was it over 2 nights?
I don't remember.
I believe and 2 nights. Yeah.
Yeah. All planes were grounded, and but the thing is, this thing went on for like multiple hours, and you're talking like the early days of drones as well here. So it would have had to be a lot of drones, because I think I looked, and like the really, really expensive drones at the time maybe had like an hour's flight time, something like that. It wasn't like now.
That's a lot.
But but this, I mean, that it was like an hour's flight time if you're spending an awful lot of money. So they'd have had to have worked the situation out where you could have swapped them out and stuff without police following these drones and stuff like that. I don't understand why, if it was grounding aircraft, we couldn't have shot it. If it's just a drone flying up in the sky, we have the capabilities just to get rid of it. So I've always thought that that this thing in the UK was like an O'Hare airport incident. Yeah. So it's worth you looking into it, like, definitely.
It rings familiar somewhere in there, but it's when you're in it. I can
remember that, Lee. Yeah,
it's interesting.
It was Christmas time, wasn't it? It was like around. It was in the winter. It was.
Yeah. Hey, well, look what happened this year and last year, or actually the beginning of this year, from December and January. All those jetpack men over LAX.
Mm-hmm.
Seen a guy flying a jetpack at 6,000 feet.
Yeah,
I saw one, Rich, and filmed it. It's on my channel.
I know.
He flew over my car.
That's crazy.
And then he landed.
That's funny.
Isn't it weird? Isn't it weird how these events that happen, like O'Hare, Phoenix Lights, where are the pictures and the videos?
Yeah, there's not enough, is there, Lee?
Especially the O'Hare incident one, because like you say, that was it was a couple of years after. Did you say? Technology's gone forward. Everything's moved on a little bit. We don't, and there's nothing. There's nothing tangible.
But you're talking 1997. So
yeah,
how many people had a video recorder back then?
You've still got you've still got photography enthusiasts.
Yeah, you've still got cameras. People. I mean. That was every man and his dog had a camera.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a lot of people that's held back from putting the pictures in, or do you think are you saying that maybe some of the pictures have actually been?
I don't know. But it's strange that, because I don't get it wrong, I believe these things have happened, because especially the O'Hare airport. We have evidence because there was grounded planes, there was people stuck on runways. That doesn't happen because somebody pretends they've seen something.
Well, in this age we have about digital age, you can manipulate anything.
Yeah.
After the fact, even during the fact.
Yeah.
You can't believe anything you see anymore on film or a photo.
No,
anything can be manipulated.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be that way.
I totally agree. Yeah, everything can be manipulated.
50 years ago, you could believe a photo as far as the photo was believable.
Right.
But now you can't believe any of it, regardless of how clear it might be.
Mm-hmm.
See a UFO, a video of a UFO, it might look pretty spectacular, but you can't believe it because anything can be screwed with. With digital technology, you can manipulate anything, literally.
Mm.
So, Mike, what do you think it was? Again, you may have said it. I just don't remember. What do you think?
Well, ultimately, I don't know what to think. I can give you several possibilities.
Well, sure.
There's there's so many things that have been added here. Like I never knew this thing until tonight. This thing of this large aircraft they've been working with for 40 or 50 years to get us up into space without rockets.
Right.
That adds a whole lot of other possibilities that I haven't been able to investigate yet. But
I'll send you the link, Mike.
yeah, well, I see it right there. I mean, they're working on a way to get us up into space without the problems and the expense and of rockets and everything. And apparently they can do it. Is it feasible? Who knows? Might be feasible in the future. That could be what happened. It could be what they had, then they used it deliberately to create a hoax, or it could have been done some other way.
I think it may have gotten away. That sounds fun to me.
That sounds fun. Huh?
But not only that,
But one that got away.
but because it also, Mike, you said it kind of went with the wind.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm going to tell you something real interesting about the wind. Pump up that Oli. Show us that map again of the state. And the wind chart over the top of the state. Arizona map. The other one. Well, that one too. Yeah, go back to the other one. It shows that the one just before that. That one right there. That is very odd. The wind does not do that normally. I looked at all the weather maps for several years past and several years after that. Each day, which is a lot of doing it. Took me several days to go through it. That pattern right there, where the air goes pretty much south over Arizona, just doesn't happen. Very odd.
Well, in the winter it happens, and March it was at the end of winter. But
yeah, but I'm talking about what actually exists in documentation.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
and there's a difference between wind and a breeze.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, this is wind. See these marks here, the little flags, the marks behind them. They're knots of speed and like that. You start out, these jet streams winds go from west to east across everywhere on the globe, as a matter of fact. Every once in a while they'll take a dip like this one did. It dips down. Well, that area there, Oklahoma was the center. There's no wind in there. But look, it goes really fast up across, around and down, like a big wing. A wing does that. That's how an airplane flies. Is the wind going over the wing is a lot faster than the other wind, and what it does, it creates a vacuum. Mm-hmm. The wing actually sucks up. In other words, it pulls it up by vacuum. It isn't just at an angle, although it does that too. They angle it for other reasons, but a wind over a wing does what it does because the wind has to go slower across one area, faster around the other to meet up at the same place on the trail end or the lead end.
Let me ask. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's all I was going to say, actually.
You see here on the bottom of the map, it says 500 millibar height contours, 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. Where I want to see 7 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Oh, I have all that stuff. Yeah.
You do? Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'll have to look at that.
Yeah. What were you thinking about it, though?
Well, it's 12 hours off.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it could have changed by 8 p.m. that night.
Well, yeah, actually, the day before and the day it's pretty much the same.
Okay.
The day before that and the day after that, or the time, I should say, before that and after that. Okay. There's two of these maps a day. These daily, they call them daily wind charts or daily wind maps or daily weather maps. It includes a number of different maps. This one here is of the wind, so that's why I chose that one.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, doesn't change that much. The wind pattern pretty much the same the day before and the day after. But it did come to a peak at that point. But whatever figure there is that you go by on that particular map is pretty much what you'd still go by exactly at the time of the event.
Do we have that map with the right times? If not, that's fine. I could always.
Well, I have
look
it, but I have to dig it out and bring it up.
Oh, I
Wouldn't
got
be-
you. Okay.
Wouldn't be for this show. It'd be for some other time.
All right, some other time.
Send it to Rich. Send it to Rich.
I could look it up myself.
Yeah. Anyway, you can find all this stuff yourself.
Yeah,
You know,
it's very easy.
it's all available. That's another thing that I was, really got to me is the fact that why the hell am I the only one that found this evidence?
You see, here's the thing. When I think of the Phoenix Lights being an actual craft with aliens inside it, to go over a major city that slow, I mean, 30, whether it's 30 or 70 or 90 miles an hour, still pretty slow to go over a city at that speed.
Yeah.
When you've got when you've got the people that we have here, the governments, the military, what have you. So if that was an alien craft, I guarantee you're going to have helicopters surrounding it. You're going to have jets scrambled. There was am I right by saying that there was helicopters at the time?
I've never heard about helicopters, only
No
jets.
helicopters, just two F-14s or something.
That's it.
Yeah.
F-14s, yeah.
There's so many
Aliens
weird
are coming,
things.
then 2 jets.
If this was actually a wing, an airfoil, okay. Let's say it was a big, like a stealth fighter or a stealth bomber. Those things have to have a speed of like 150 miles an hour to even stay airborne.
Mm.
This thing might have been going pretty fast to like float on the wind, 80 to 90 miles per hour. A jet, a stealth fighter, a stealth jet, even a 747, it takes 190 mile per hour wind to get into the air. They don't, it would fall out of the sky at the speed that this object was floating. That's another thing that says it's floating. If it was an alien craft, it'd have to have some other reason entirely. And why would an alien craft do that speed, go that particular route, precisely, that elevation, the whole shot? Why would an alien craft do that?
Mike, these lights that you saw, is that accurate to color?
Yeah, pretty much.
What was the color of the lights when you witnessed Travis get abducted?
Oh, Travis, that light? The
craft.
light that hit him, the light on the craft.
No, not the light that hit him. The craft.
Yeah, it was remarkably, it's the same. It was a yellowish white, not real bright, just like these. It wasn't shining. This is white light with a little bit of yellow, and if you go towards the outside edge, it turns orange. But that's the way light normally does too.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. But are you convinced that this is the Phoenix Lights is a hoax done by?
I'm not going to use the word hoax. I just say it's not extraterrestrial.
Hmm.
Which, of course, automatically implies that it was government or something else.
But if it was government, could it and it was done as a test, then that's still a hoax. That's still a hoax done on the population.
You could say hoax because the meaning of hoax is a lie. It's just an event that's a lie.
Okay, let's just say blue beam then.
Yeah. I mean,
a practical blue beam.
it would have to be military, because if it was private industry that let something like that up, that essentially floated for so long, like just completely lost. Can you imagine the fines that would be slapped on that company? They would be sued into oblivion.
It would have to be government, wouldn't it? In order to be safe from all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. A private company certainly wouldn't want to tackle it at all. It would just be wide open for all kinds of things to happen. That's another thing that pushes towards the government thing.
I definitely think whatever it was something of the size that people are reporting. 100%.
Well, close.
From everything that I've heard, from the little images and video that I have seen, which is very little, surprisingly, considering there was 700 and odd people, only one person reported it from the air, and that was Burt Reynolds. Not Burt Reynolds. What's his name?
Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell.
Burt Reynolds.
Burt Reynolds, yeah.
That was weird, though, wasn't it, when he came out talking about it? Because it was like an anniversary, wasn't it?
He's
And
with
he
his
was-
son.
It was.
And he was
28th year.
on British television at the time, wasn't he? I think he was on This Morning.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's right.
and he just suddenly came out and said, "Oh yeah, I happened to be there and I happened to see it, and I forgot to mention it for fucking years." That was
He
really
didn't think it
weird.
was that big of a deal. That's the way he explains it.
He
When
didn't
saw
realize what it was. He
Exactly.
didn't realize what
He
it was.
didn't-
Until,
Yeah, he didn't realize it was going to be such a big thing in the news.
But how did he escape it?
Escape what?
The news, no, like hearing about the Phoenix Lights. How
Because
did he
nobody knew about him.
yeah, the story was
but how did he escape it? He must have
He's-
known that those lights he saw were the Phoenix Lights.
No, he didn't.
He did.
So
He put it out of his mind.
Years
Oh,
later, apparently, years later, he saw the Phoenix Lights on the TV, and they said
Exactly.
that there was one area. What do they call them? Pilot. There's one pilot that reported seeing it. Only
Yeah.
one pirate. Only one pilot reported actually seeing the lights.
Right.
One non-military.
And it was
pilot.
him.
And Burt fucking Reynolds.
If
Brad-
I was a
Brad Pitt
conspiracy
said that
theorist,
was me.
if I was a conspiracy theorist, I would probably edge towards the idea that for some reason, like the Hollywood used one of their assets to put it back in the consciousness of people.
Well, if you use his explanation, Russell's explanation, he didn't think it was that big of a deal at the time. He didn't
Right.
think anything of it. That's the thing. That explains it right there, and that's his words.
And he even said he thought it was weird that he didn't even think about talking about it.
Well, that's what he thought later, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, why wouldn't
Yeah.
have I talked about that? Yeah.
Well, that's it. That is weird.
Get what
But
you're
it's
saying,
still-
though, Lee.
But
Yeah.
he's still, if you use his words, that's what he says. He didn't make any big deal about it at the time.
Yeah. He thought maybe that he was, he said it with tongue in cheek that maybe the aliens told him, forget about
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, he was joking.
Jedi mind trick. You don't see us,
Right, exactly.
You're right.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Here you go. Burt Reynolds, Kurt Russell. Here's my email. If you want to come
Yeah.
on the show.
He's dead, isn't he?
No.
Burt Reynolds is shit.
Yeah,
No,
Burt Reynolds, but not Kurt Russell.
I know.
I
I
thought
look,
Kurt Russell died.
Kurt Russell died. No, you're thinking of the other guy who was in
I'm thinking of Patrick Swayze. Sorry.
Patrick Swayze. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do that too.
Yeah,
Kurt,
Swayze's
email
gone.
me if you're dead.
It could only be one. They had to fight it out.
I know. Yeah. They Roadhouse.
Do you know, Big Trouble in Little China, though, was actually one of my favorite films.
It's a good
growing up.
movie.
It's
Yeah.
a good movie.
Loved it. Oh dear. But it is odd that the only person to see it airborne was an actor.
Yeah, well, he was the only non-military
Right.
pilot.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people who saw it, but they didn't know what it was, just like Kurt Russell. There were thousands of people that saw it from the air, from airplanes and, jets and whatnot coming and going from the airport. But they didn't know what it was. So they don't say anything about it.
Was it tracked like radar?
No.
Well, there's no way of knowing that.
Well, they said it wasn't. Who knows if it was? Yeah.
Lynn Katai, the lady that wrote that book, Phoenix Lights, she claims that it was that she has people at the tower there knew all about that and saw it and all that stuff, but there's no actual evidence of it because that evidence was thrown away by a matter of course, over a certain amount of time.
Rich, you were smiling then, like You wanted to say something about link of time.
I don't know. By the way, I was just talking to her yesterday, Lynn Katai.
No, it's just amazing what progression people go through in this field. And she started out as somebody who wanted to stay quiet. And then years later, I mean, we all knew who she was, right? We knew. Yeah. In Arizona, we knew.
Rich, wasn't she there when you were sleeping with Travis? Not sleeping. Yeah. You were sleeping on his shoulder.
I told you not to say that on air. Yeah, of course, it's her movie. I was 3 rows from the front and Travis was on my left and I fell asleep because I've seen the movie 8 times already.
Yeah.
And when I woke up, the lights turned on and I look at Travis and he looks at me and he goes, shakes his head no. He almost cracked a smile. You could almost see him smile, but I've never seen them.
Where was this? Where'd this happen?
This was at the in Scottsdale, Arizona, at the Harkins Theater on Scottsdale Road and Shea.
Okay.
That's what they always go to that one because that's close to Lynn's home.
Yeah.
They got a contract, I think. But yeah, it was fun going to those. That's how I met all these people who saw the lights, and that's what I did. I went to all of these every year. I would go and meet new people.
Well, I can tell you this. The Phoenix Lights started out rather small and has grown phenomenally. Mm-hmm. And that growth is due to what people think, not due to any factual thing, just due to what people make of it. And what people make of it grows and grows and grows, and it becomes a bigger and bigger thing. Every year, it's bigger than it was the year before. Yeah. Now, what does that say? What does that say for the reality of the Phoenix Lights?
It doesn't mean there wasn't something in the first place. It's like everything, isn't it? Look at Point Pleasant and Mothman. As soon as if something can be a thing, and then naturally people go, I can sell some T-shirts. I can have a coffee shop with this on the top of it, and then it becomes something people can make money out of.
Exactly. Well, that's what's happened to the Phoenix Lights, all right. Because what I saw down there, Hilltop, near Prescott, I didn't even know what it was. It wasn't fantastic until it got overhead, and then it started becoming a little more than the average thing. It became very puzzling to me. And then I chased it down the road, down the freeway. And the next day, I went to the TV station there. I don't remember which one. And the guy there said, they don't have anything on it, but if I want to check on the weather, go to the National Weather Service, which I did. And it went from there. And I compiled just about every document there is concerning weather and wind and everything else.
Mike, did you ever call into Coast to Coast?
Did I ever?
Yeah.
No, I never called into it. No.
Have you ever spoke with Art Bell?
Well, yeah, I was on his show several times, but not about the Phoenix Lights.
Were you on his show before the Phoenix Lights happened?
Oh yeah.
And you had his
details. Yeah. Our incident happened in 1975. Art Bell, I don't know what.
I'm just. You should have called in. You should have called him, and because he had loads of people on for quite a few weeks. Yeah, well, on the Phoenix Lights.
I never really followed Art Bell. I never did actually. I wasn't a fan of the show because I had too much else to do. My life was going different directions. I didn't sit and watch that stuff or listen to that show. I had a show of my own on KGRA for over a year, and I had Phoenix Lights on there 2 or 3 different times. I did a show on that. But I noticed
I get it. I get it. He was the competition. I get it.
No, had nothing to do with the competition. No.
30 years later, 20 years later, yeah.
What has always been remarkable to me is that, like when I would do these shows, and had a lot of people listening to the show, thousands of people, and not one of them, not one believer ever said, "Okay, what you've come up with here, all this evidence has changed my mind." It never happened even one time, and it goes along with what I've felt about the UFO subject over the 46 years that I've been involved in it. Believers are believers, period. Skeptics are skeptics, period. They don't mix. Once a person has decided what they're going to think of something, that's what they're going to think of it. And very, very seldom, like 1 out of 100 or less, will ever change their mind about anything. Now,
Even
to
if
me,
you show them evidence to the contrary of what they
exactly,
believe, they still
exactly.
say it's weird.
That's exactly right. That's what I was going to say next. Contrary evidence doesn't mean anything to somebody who has already voiced their opinion. And that's not saying very much for the intelligence of human beings, does it?
No.
We make up our mind about something and we're going to stick to it no matter what.
Yeah.
It's the problem people have of being wrong, isn't it? People don't want to be wrong.
Right.
Yeah, they don't want the embarrassment of it.
I love
exactly
being wrong.
right.
I love being wrong.
Really?
Because you just learn something. You know what I mean?
No, 100%.
And I'm rarely wrong, so I love it when it happens. It's like rain in Arizona.
Well, I'll tell you something. I've had people come down on me because I stand up for the reality of what happened to us in 1975, and yet I don't believe the Phoenix Lights had anything to do with extraterrestrials. That's a major contrast there that people don't see as a reality in itself. I'm a believer. I should be a believer, just like Travis. He believes in the Phoenix Lights and all other UFO things, as far as I know. And I've had words with him about it. That's one of the contentions between him and I. But
have you said to Travis, "Look, mate, this was not the mothership. This was a balloon"?
No, not like that. I've said it was lifted. In my opinion, it was held up by lighter than air gas. I don't know what kind. I have said that. But Travis doesn't want to talk about it. He's all pro. The Phoenix Lights is extraterrestrial, and that's all there is to it. That's his opinion. The evidence, the contrary evidence, doesn't mean a thing to him. Neither does it mean anything to people like Lynn Kate or anybody else who's not only voiced a strong opinion but written about it. If they've written about it, then they're entrenched in their wrong belief.
Well, this is what I was saying, and I forgot to continue with Dr. Lynn. She was quiet for so many years, then came out, and then she did the movie, and then
Right.
her popularity started waning, and then all of a sudden now she's talking to aliens. They visit her.
Yeah.
All these things. Now
Yeah.
she can channel them. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, I was going to bring that up myself a while ago when I was talking about Lynn, but I didn't want to get that heavy on it.
She's so nice. I know. I like her.
Yeah, she was really friendly to me the other day talking to her, but
She's nice.
and we have we have a completely opposite view of it, and so in spite of that, there isn't any real contention there. It's kind of like professional courtesy, But,
Yeah. She grew a thick skin, just like you.
Yeah, but the thing of it is that she has changed her story. Put it that way. To her, the Phoenix Lights has grown beyond itself 1,000 times what it was originally.
Of course. It has
That
to.
way.
You need to keep writing. Gotta make that money.
She's she's published her 3rd edition, I think, of that book.
Really?
Yeah.
She doesn't need money. It's about fame, and I think. But we can't say for a fact she's not experienced anything. So what if she is? Man, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to believe. Weird stuff happens, so it happens.
Yeah, that's right. And it's hard for me to put down the Phoenix Lights and like a hoax, he keeps saying, a hoax. It's hard for me to do that.
When I say a hoax, I don't mean a hoax that so a few teenagers have a few things up in the sky. I mean a hoax on like a government hoax, huh? Blue beam type thing. Practical.
Well, it's hard for me to have that on one side, and on the other side, I'm trying to hold up the reality of what happened to us in 1975. It's two different things, and they're on opposite sides of each other, and I'm in the middle.
Mike, do you whenever you hear about people that experience stuff, it tends to this stuff, it seems to be attracted to certain people. So the idea that you were like clearly involved with the Travis Walton thing. Whatever happened, I know you don't like to say abduction because you didn't see abduction. That's a good place to be, and see the Phoenix Lights as well. Does that not like make you think that maybe it was something otherworldly? Because the chances of you being involved in like two of the most prominent things in ufology is fucking madness. You know.
Yeah, it's a little. It goes way beyond coincidence, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Seems to anyway. Yeah. Well, I can't answer that. All I know is that I saw the Phoenix Lights from a hilltop in the Prescott, and it was so interesting that I followed it ever since. And I've compiled all this evidence. Nobody else has done that. That's the other thing. The other thing is that the Walton experience is something that I defended, where Travis never did get that involved in it. I was the one that wrote all the letters and did all the stuff with Philip Klass and every skeptic since then. The ones lately, you know, I've defended that case all the way through. So there's a lot more odd to it, more coincidence involved in this than just something that two biggest things that have ever happened that I was involved in.
Yeah.
But it is just coincidence. I mean, you can think what you want of it, but the best I can explain it is it just happened.
Yeah, no, I just wonder whether this sort of thing is just attracted to certain people. Like you meet certain people, for instance, that it doesn't have to be supernatural, but you meet certain people that extraordinary things happen to. They just have a life full of coincidence.
Like Dave.
Yeah, exactly like Dave.
Well, a lot. I don't know if I should tell you this or not, but I've actually had other incidents that are beyond belief, actually. And yet I've never been abducted. You know, a lot of people say, you've been abducted, you just don't know it. Well,
Mike, you're on a talk show and you've just said, I don't know if I should tell you this. So you certainly should tell us this.
Yes.
Well, okay. Well, I said earlier that I've been to England several times. I was there to study crop circles. And for the first 3 times
we spoke about this offline. Yes.
Yeah. I was there. I got with the circle makers. You know, they're on the internet. You know, they're easy to find. And I got with them. And I watched them make several crop circles, and a couple of them in the daytime. And they're into it for the money. They do advertising and stuff like that, and they do other stuff besides just because it's interesting to them. You know, like art form. Mm-hmm. But I got of the opinion from several years of watching this stuff and studying it that it was all man-made until 1996. In 1996, I might have been there all those years before, but when I went, it wasn't like I was there for a long time. It's 3 or 4 days at a time, you know, each year. In 1996, I had decided that I was going to make a crop circle. I had watched them do it and all that, and I figured, and I created a design, you know. I was going to make one. During the day, I had found a field, and I was going to do it. I was getting ready to do it, and I had all the equipment. And I went to this field, and the first thing that happened is I saw a green light. It turned out to be an orb, and I could have easily missed it because it wasn't there for long. But it was about 10 to 15 feet in diameter. It was jumping around in this field so quick it was almost a blur. I just happened to have a pair of heavy-duty UV ray glasses, you know, sunglasses in my pocket. So I was using them during the day because, you know, the sun coming up off those fields burn your eyes, your skin, get a sunburn. But I happened to have it, and I put them on, and then I was surprised that I could see into this orb. I could see detail in it, where before it was just a bright, round ball. And I painted that. I did a CGI of that. In fact, I did quite a bit of that. A large piece, and includes several of those, and then a blow up, I guess you'd say, of it. But I was so startled by that I didn't make the crop circle. I didn't do anything at all. I just gathered up my stuff and I left, and I've never been back to England since then. Mm-hmm. So that's when
in England was that?
When was that?
Whereabouts in England was that?
Well, it was about a half a mile north of Stonehenge.
Somerset.
Yeah.
Stonehenge is, yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta get.
It was a field I was going to use. Had been used in years past. I mean, everything is over there has been reused over and over and over, pretty much.
Crop circles are interesting. It's funny they don't get any coverage in the UK at all anymore. Really, you know, unless you're interested in crop circles, and then there's websites.
Well, what's happened over the years is that, as like what happened to me, if I'd have never gone over there in '96, I would be believing today that every crop circle was man-made. That's all I would think of it, and it'd be a matter of the past.
I don't believe everyone's man-made. I don't believe it's aliens. I believe there's like some sort of like weather phenomena that we don't know about. You know, in the same way as you see the
what I saw
sand under the sea. When you see sand under the sea.
Yeah, but what I saw was just too organized to have been any kind of a natural thing.
Oh no, but what you think about if you put like sugar or flour on top of a speaker, an inverted speaker, and then put different frequencies on it, they essentially make crop circles.
There's patterns that show,
but not the intricate part of crop circles.
Hang about, Mike.
Yeah, you can make really intricate Mike, geometric patterns.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you telling us this orb made a crop circle?
Yes. I didn't see what it made because they left that night.
But did you report this?
No.
Did you take a picture?
No, it was at night. After this orb was gone, there was nothing there but blackness. It was dark. Couldn't have taken a light.
Now, how did you know it made a crop circle?
Because I could walk down into it far enough to see that
it made
furrowed like that. Yeah. I went down in there far enough to see quite a bit of it, but it was all in the dark. I couldn't see exactly what was going on. I could just see that it was a crop circle, deliberately made.
Rich,
I think GUFON is desperately trying to goof off.
I am trying to get the goof out of here.
You're showing 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's it on, Rich?
Tonight we're gonna go over part 4 of Jeremy McGowan's truthful story about how Lou and Cahill and the gang are frauds. And I'm also going to talk about Cahill and the gang.
They're my favorite 90s rap band.
Cahill of Beans. And Luis Elizondo. Yeah, and then I'm going to talk about some other channels that have something in common, and I'll show that off on the show. So that's it.
Is it about you, me, and Lee all having beards?
Oh, yeah. All 4 of us do. Well, Mike has a goatee.
It's a beard. My beard's only just grown back. Just-ish.
Yeah, I'm going to I'm going to try to do it big this time. It just food gets on there, man, and I don't realize it, and I'm like, what the frig is going on? I got to get used to it.
Every so often.
Always trim the lip.
You have to.
My wife, every so often, she just finds a bit, and she's like,
no. Mm-hmm. Your wife's a chimpanzee.
What?
Well, that's what chimpanzees do. They primp each other and they eat all the maggots and shit.
All right. Yes. But Rich, what's his name? What's the guy? The guy who's exposing Lou at the minute is called.
Jeremy McGowan.
Yeah, I messaged you the other day. Have you messaged him? Are you going to get him on?
I have messaged him. Have not heard back.
What a turd! Message Rich back. No,
did you message him?
No, I said you should.
I did. Yeah, I did. Nothing. Yeah. And then I saw him go on Erica Luke's show the day after I messaged him. So
message Erica.
All right.
Scott.
Who?
Scott.
All right. You got a show Brown. Here. Let me get out of here.
Yeah. All right. Love you. Love you.
All right.
Oh, by the way, Rich, Illuminati T-shirt. Everybody knows it. MTV. You're exposed. Go on, fuck off.
What did I do? What's wrong with this? I
You
heard I
know
was.
what's wrong. You know what's wrong. You're yes. You
I
were there.
don't know. I really don't.
Yeah,
Why,
well,
why,
look
don't
it
you,
up.
why don't you start your next show like that?
Yeah.
Okay, I will. Like, do this? All right. Sorry, Mike.
Hmm.
This is what I got to go through.
Yeah.
It was good to see you guys. Thank you for having me. Mike, it was good seeing you again.
You too.
Thanks,
Cool.
man.
Good
Thanks,
luck on your show.
Gufonians. See you guys. Yeah, I need it.
All right.
I saw somebody's mentioned something about MTV earlier. So
I've seen a couple.
It's just
You know-
a t-shirt, guys.
Yeah,
cool
well,
t-shirt.
I
I
don't
like it.
watch MTV because I don't watch TV. I don't at all.
I don't. My
No, I
TV is there for one reason. It's usually a controller in my hand with a beer. But Mike, we've got about another 10 minutes or so. So when it comes to the Phoenix Lights, it's man-made. No, in your mind, no doubt about it, man-made.
Yeah, about 99.9%. Yeah.
That's a good percentage.
So
Yeah,
there's
it is.
so go from there then. Why was it there? Are we going accident? Is that what we're coming off the fence with? It was an accident.
Well, like I said, we've got a new element has been entered into this tonight because of what you've discovered there with this thing. This I don't know what you call it. What is the name for that?
It's the
Airship to orbit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
airship to orbit.
Well, that puts a new perspective on it. But
The
other
only
than
thing I would
that,
say,
yeah.
they do seem to have spent like £7.50 on making their website.
Yeah, it's not a great website, is it?
It's not.
Regardless, the Phoenix Lights first event, not second event. Well, actually, the second event was man-made too because it was flares. But the first event is, in my opinion, almost for certain man-made because there's just too much evidence to say anything. It was not extraterrestrial. There's just too much evidence against that.
I think in all situations, like in all cases, the likelihood, and it's not like the sexy answer to it, but the likelihood is that there's people behind it. You know, it's because we know for a fact people exist. Everything else, we're using parts of our imagination to try and piece together different bits of information to make something, and it's much more attractive to think that it's something otherworldly because it's exciting to think so.
Yeah, that's right.
But the fact is that it's the most logical thing of the fact that we make pretty fucking cool stuff.
Yeah,
is
that's right.
It is the most logical one.
Well, you know, man-made, it just doesn't. It isn't exciting, is it?
No.
This stuff is interesting, like this stuff on the screen here. It's interesting, but it's not. You know, it's
Have you
not
seen
that
the
interesting.
size of it when
Yeah.
it's like? If you
So
look
that,
here,
see, that's pretty
look
big.
at
Dan.
look at that guy inside it.
Yeah. If something that size flew over you and it had a closed in, and it was closed over the top, it wasn't just that sort of finger shape. I mean, it's even just that. If you saw that and it was just black flying over you, you would think, "Oh my word, they're coming to collect me."
Yeah, well, something like that.
I mean, you got the scale and everything there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
And that's just the first stage.
The Phoenix Lights was very large. The measurement I came up with was 1/3 of a mile across. So, you know, that's pretty big.
I get why people say like a mile, or when people say the size of a football stadium.
Yeah,
Because-
well, that's, yeah. A football stadium is 300 feet.
Yeah, because you're just you're giving measurements out that you're just trying to ground the idea of something being massive, aren't you? You know, at that point, it could be 2 or 3 miles wide for all you know. You're just trying to put into context. It like planes are massive, but this was much bigger than a plane.
Oh well, there's no way it could have been a plane. I mean,
no,
even this is not a plane.
Scale.
It's a particular purpose. It has to have that size to do what it does. But you know, the size of 747s and that size is about as big as you want to go with a man-made object, because otherwise it just has no function. It has no purpose. It's just too large.
Yeah.
Functionality.
It's odd how these triangle things have been seen all over the place. I still think my favorite UFO picture is that one from Belgium. You know, the one where you're looking up at the triangle thing. You can't really see much of it, but it feels like it's I think it would be a difficult thing to fake that picture, because it's because if you tried to fake it, you would end up with something that looked more tangible than what you see. I think it would be quite difficult to make it look like something like that.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll ever see another Phoenix Lights?
Say that again.
Do you think we'll ever see another Phoenix Lights?
That's an incomplete statement. I don't understand what you're saying.
Oh, I don't mean over Phoenix. I mean in general. Do you think we'll ever see another event like this?
Another mass sighting?
Well, according to Lynn Katay, it happens all over the place all the time. But she's getting kind of major stretch.
Not with that many witnesses.
Oh, no. With that many witnesses? Who knows? You know, in 1975, what happened to us within the days following that, I thought that was just the beginning of something huge. I thought, you know, the purpose of aliens was going to be revealed like within weeks or something. And all this time, 46 years, nothing. No more than that. You know, nothing any bigger than that.
Mike, you said that you think that the Phoenix Lights could possibly be man-made.
Right. More than likely.
Do you think that what you boys saw out there in the woods could have possibly been man-made?
Very possibly, yes.
But where do you lean? Are you leaning towards Steve Pierce?
No, not Steve Pierce. I don't know what to think as far as that's concerned. It could easily have been alien. It easily could have been. What we saw definitely looked alien, but it could have been government. But if it was government,
what is alien?
Yeah, exactly. And if it was not alien, if it was man-made like government, an actual craft that had people in it like that, it would have been way ahead of the time.
And we've had wars since then. That's what always gets me with this stuff. If there was hidden technology that could do those sort of things, we would have used them at some point. You know, it's. I mean, even if you look at I always go back to the Osama bin Laden thing. It wasn't Osama bin Laden, was it? It was it? Was it Saddam Hussein or Osama bin Laden? Was it? Oh yeah, it was Osama bin Laden when they went into the camp, wasn't it? They took the chopper into the camp to get him.
Yeah,
and they crashed. They crashed the chopper going
one
in.
of them.
Yeah, and if you saw like the top of that chopper sticking up at the time, it was clearly a helicopter. You know, there was nothing like extra exotic about it, but it was, for all intents and purposes, probably a stealth helicopter that we hadn't seen before. The tail looked really strange.
Something completely different.
Yeah. So if you're talking about doing something like that, and we're still using essentially helicopters, but cool stealth helicopters, then if we had that sort of technology, they would be using it. You know, we wouldn't be fucking around. And it's the same with private industry. If we had like 0 point energy and lighter than air craft, as in like lighter than aircraft, which is physical metal craft like we think of now, then people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos wouldn't be plowing billions into solid fuel rockets.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of, you know, a lot of things go on in this world that we didn't know about. But when we hear about them, then we can put them to the test with other stuff, cross-reference.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about here.
Well, I'll tell you what I would say is looking at this company, this JP Aerospace, if they're making submarines that look like that, I don't want to get on what they're trying to stick into space.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, and I'll bring this up. This company. So, Lee, my way of thinking is, if this was something that was being tested back then, and the military was behind it, Air Force, whatever, that would explain the weirdness on the cover-up. That would explain why, and like the governor did that strange thing where he made fun of it with the alien, and I can't remember the good lady's name that was on Art Bell a few times.
Barwood.
But was told to
Barwood.
Yeah, leave it alone. Stay away from it. That would explain it more than a phenomena, you know, something that's very strange that nobody had a clue, because they could have just they could have just kept it as a mystery and said we have no idea. And still to this day we'd be looking back and going, those lights were strange. You know, everybody's investigated, nobody found an answer. And would it be such would it be a big deal? Would that be a big deal? Or would it be just that was an amazing phenomena, you know? But because they did that cover up,
I always wonder if because for some reason in the West we think we're above propaganda, like we think we're above doing it. We're used to seeing videos that we don't believe coming from China and Russia, and we look at those countries as the baddies that are just trying to fool the goodies. I wonder how much of it's military posturing. So if you stick a story like this or the Tic Tac out into the ether for other countries to pick up, and then all of a sudden Russia and China are going, have they fucking got these like things that can go from sea level to space in like the blink of an eye? Because that sounds like something we should be fucking worried about. I just wonder whether it's not for our benefit. It's not for anyone's benefit. It's just propaganda that the US is using against enemy nations.
Well, one of the things that I believe is that America holds a lot of these bad countries at bay by making them believe that we have technology that they can't possibly outdo. We've got war machines that they can't do anything against. We have stealth fighters. We have whatever machines, ground machines, air machines. You know, there's no ways. And the Phoenix Lights could possibly be an attempt, more than anything else, along with the other stuff. Like I said, it's had more than one reason. Along with the other reasons, it could be to make Korea believe that we were incapable of, don't mess with us, in other words.
Yeah.
And it would cost nothing other than that, you know.
Well, that's the beauty of psychological warfare, isn't it?
Yeah,
is that the
exactly
battle's going
right.
in people's minds, not on fields. Yeah.
The thing of it is that they can't touch us anyway. I mean, what we know about is already impenetrable.
Well, this is what I get with this is what I don't get with the idea of the Tic Tac. Like I say, you know, you have a report of something that goes from sea level to space in like less than a second. If you had like a fleet of those, say, that you could fit weaponry on, and to be perfectly honest, at that point, especially if you could use them remotely, you don't even have to fit weaponry on them, because you could merely crash those things and the impact that something going that speed would make would be huge. You could Independence Day someone. You could one day, if you wanted to invade a country, you could go over every major city in that country in an instant, and you could attack and wipe out a nation within an afternoon.
Yeah.
And I don't believe any nation in the world, like I don't believe the US or the Russia, China, Korea, if anyone on earth had that power, then we would be speaking the language of that country within a decade.
Well, maybe. There's a lot going on we don't know about.
That's true.
I'm just wondering, I mean, wasn't Independence Day like a year before the Phoenix Lights?
Yes, I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, it actually was. I'm looking at it.
96.
96, yeah. 96.
You're talking about the 200th anniversary?
I'm talking about actual Independence Day,
the movie,
film,
yeah.
you know, with the big giant spacecraft that's over a city. It was 1 year before. Can you imagine if somebody, you know, in the government just went, should we test this theory?
Well, I mean, it could absolutely be like if you look at War of the Worlds, you know, when that radio show sent people into a right tizzy. I mean, there's more than a few people that believe that was promoted in the way it was to see what would happen to people should it be broadcast in that way.
I mean, that was so odd.
Yeah, well, you think about the lack of like technology to communicate with people. Then, you know, it's if you heard it on the radio, it was gospel. That was your connection to the world, or not even the world, just to your country. So I don't see any reason why it couldn't have been like a hard version of that.
Do you not think that the War of the Worlds, when it first, like, they would have broadcasted before and said, this is a story by Orson Welles, and yeah, here we go. And maybe some people just tuned in.
No, I don't think they did,
like,
did they?
After the intro.
No, I don't. I think the whole thing, it was done like as a sort of conceptual art piece, wasn't it? Where it was done as a news broadcast. Yeah.
To scare the living shit out of people.
Yeah. And even then, it had to be adapted because the original book was set in the Victorian times. You know, so it had to be. It had to be
crazy.
It was adapted for the modern time. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy just to think about? Invaders from another planet done in the Victorian times.
Yeah.
I can't comprehend that.
Well, this is the thing. We think of sci-fi as being a modern invention, don't we? But it's been around for a long time. You know, as long as there have been people trying to work out what will come in the future.
100%. Boys, GUFON's just starting now, so people go ahead on over to GUFON. Lee, what's coming on?
Normal podcast stuff. If you're not listening to most of the audio, then I hate you. So come and listen to my podcast.
There's no excuses. You're on everything.
Yeah, everything. All of the podcast things. I'm not doing podcast things. I'm here. So if you're listening to me here, then you'll like listening to me when you're at work. Just fucking do it. This is as far as self-promotion goes for me. If you're not listening to me, you're wrong.
There you go. Go listen to Muffsy Audio. The links are in the description, people. And if you miss my show, it's usually on there about a week later.
Yeah. In fact, if you don't listen to me, you're on my show most of the time, Ollie. So if you don't like me, listen to my show because Ollie's on it.
Yeah. I do the shows that I won't do here. Mike, you don't have anything. You don't have anything to promote. No show, no nothing. You just come on and you just do it. You do it for the love.
Yeah, what interests me, right?
The love of the subject.
Well, as he was saying earlier, I've witnessed two of the major UFO events in history. That kind of puts me at the center of things, and both of them are in Arizona. That's coincidental, isn't it?
There's
Just
nothing you'd like to
coincidence.
promote before you go.
Oh no, not really. Again, the original paintings, 6 of those are still for sale. I
you
haven't
go.
sold anything in the last couple of weeks. I don't own them anymore. I just get a small percentage for selling them if we do.
How much are the paintings by just?
Well, the ones so far that have been sold are sold for $1,500 a piece, and the price can only go up. So I won't make a lot of money off of it, but definitely, if you want a piece of history, a piece of the Walton experience, buy one of those.
That's a good investment.
And where can we find those pictures?
Oh, on my Facebook page under Mike Heston Rogers. That's the only place they exist, I think. But they're there, and if you want to talk about it, just contact me on Messenger.
But it's Mike Heston
Rogers, R-O-G, dash
Rogers.
Right.
Not the other one, because there's another one that's been infiltrated. You had one with like over 500 followers or whatever.
Yeah, exactly right.
And that's been infiltrated.
I lost that to hackers, and they never turned loose of it. We tried several times, but it's gone. So it's not my page. It just doesn't exist as far as we're concerned.
Yeah, when we first got in touch, I was messaging the hacker for about a good 3 days. He never messaged me back though.
No.
So, good.
A lot of people do, I'm sure. They assume that's me, but that's not me.
Yeah. So if Mike asks for your bank details, it's not Mike.
Right. If you want me, it's Mike Heston Rogers. Same name, just a dash. But that's the only way to reach me.
There you go, Mike. I would love to have you on. You're very welcome on this channel. I find you a charming man, very interesting. I would love one day to see, whether it's on here or on another channel, whatever, the whole gang that's left get together.
Oh. Well, only half of us are still here.
Yeah, I'd like to see Steve come on here again with yourself. But like I said, I'm not paying the man.
Yeah.
I like him. I'm not paying him. I don't pay anybody.
Yeah, he's pretty well, as far as from what I hear, he won't do anything without being paid for it. So you'd have to pay him.
Get it. I kind of get it. I get it with you. So Travis is made and I get why he's made a lot of the money. He was the guy that got taken.
He owes me a lot of money, but I'll never get it.
Well, we'll speak. I want to speak to Travis. I'd love to speak. I want to ask him questions that other people haven't asked him.
Yeah.
Well,
you never know. He might agree to be on a show. He might agree to be on a show with me and Steve.
That would be nice.
John Gillette is the only other one that's still around.
Love to get John.
Yeah. John, Steve, me, and Travis. The other 3 are gone. And
I mean, if we can get one of the aliens, that would be a bonus. that would be a bonus.
Maybe we could do it in like a "This Is Your Life" moment, where halfway through the show it's like, Travis, you haven't seen this person for so many years, and then we wheel on a little grey.
You could probably talk Ryan Gordon into be a stand-in alien for us.
Well, boys, it's been a great show, and everybody that's supported the show, that's putting the thumbs up, that's sharing the links. If you can't support the show by getting yourself a bit of t-shirt, merch, whatever, Patreon, whatever you want to do, support it by sending it to a friend. If you've got that friend that is hankering for a bit of UFO goodness, send in this channel. And if he's one of these that is like, it's all aliens, definitely send in this channel, because they may like it. Get your thumbs up, people.
Very
And,
good.
you know, I don't promote this channel enough when it comes to doing, well, my wife says I don't, but I do merch, people. Get yourself over. There's merchandise. If you want to support the family, if you want to support, the family, if you want to support the channel, get yourself some merch or become a Patreon, or just the best thing, share it out, because if we share it, it grows. Good night, God bless, people. Mind the bugs don't bite. I'm Alien Addict. This is Lee from Musty Audio and Mike Rogers. Should say Mickey.
Yeah.
Is it Mikey or Mickey? What do people call you, Mike?
That's Mike.
So why does it say Mickey?
It says Mikey.
Somebody else did that. I didn't do that.
It says Mikey.
Yeah, well, I didn't do that. I was wondering why it was. My name is Mike, M-I-K-E.
I didn't do that.
Or Michael. You could say Mikey, but that's a childhood name.
Well, somebody's typed that for you then, Mike.
Wasn't me.
Wasn't me. Right, folks. Good night. God bless, folks. Mind the bugs don't bite. Brilliant.
Bye-bye.
How do I end this? There we go.